Alright, welcome back to another beautiful spring day in Calgary, Alberta. It's April 2nd. Last night we had a full-on thunderstorm, lightning, pouring rain, and this morning there's like 4 inches of snow on the grounds. Yeah, springtime. Springtime, baby, new beginnings, etc. I am exhausted. Fucking spent. I'm really glad it's deload washout week. I was feeling absolutely smashed after the last session that we vlogged. And then I had a session on the weekend and I dragged my ass into it and then felt so much better afterwards. So I'm looking forward to training today. I think it's just such a fine balance with the knee and the shoulder and stuff. Of it gets a bit better if I don't train, but then it starts getting worse if I don't train. Doesn't really make any sense, but it's always finding that balance of like I have to be doing something, pushing a little bit, moving, lifting, or it just is super stagnant. So just trying to find the right amount of work but not too much. And yeah, today should be good for that. It's going to be a bit of a variety show for sure. I got a couple of what Mike likes to call batteries, which are like superset sets of 25. So if you thought the breathing was intense on the last vlogs, watch out. It's about to get better or worse depending on how you're looking at it. Forgot my coffee today. Makes me sad. Makes me especially extra tired. But I guess we can talk a little bit about deloads and washouts and pivots and swing weeks and whatever the hell else you want to call them. Because I think people ask a lot of questions and maybe aren't super sure what the point is or how to approach them or if they're doing too much or too little. But generally the two big goals of a pivot, swing, deload, whatever the hell, are to, number one, alleviate and reduce fatigue levels, allow for some extra recovery, and number two, to try to like maintain some adaptation. And then there's probably some other small goals, like maybe train some qualities you don't normally train, i.e. sets of 25, and resensitize yourself to training a little bit, like create a bit of a bookend to the block so that the next time you go in, the stimulus is a little more novel. So what does all that mean? Basically, it means that I kind of, when I'm programming for athletes, I'll do it like one of a couple different ways. One of the ways being like really non-specific. So still pushing quite hard, but doing maybe, squat sets of 6 to 8, depending on, how far that is from what we were doing in the block. Obviously, if we're doing a block of 5s, might not be different enough. And in that case, yeah, we're altering the rep ranges. We're altering the accessory selection quite a bit. Instead of using like a 3-count pause bench, we'll use a 5-count pause bench. Instead of using a 3-0-0 tempo, we'll use a 6-0-0 tempo. We'll pull over for the EMS. Things like that. So essentially finding ways to make things still challenging with minimal loading and in very novel patterns. So that's one of the sort of approaches. The other one would be to keep things a little bit more specific, maintain like a modicum of intensity. So, maybe we're doing like a triple at 7 to 8, but then we're doing 3 or 4 triples or whatever, sets of whatever. And those are at like last warm-up difficulty, like 5, maybe even below. They're just literally something you can just move through without even having to think about it. But we're just kind of keeping that pattern fresh, keeping it relatively specific, but not necessarily adding a whole lot of stress. We're not using a whole lot of intensity. As for like when you might want to use those, it's going to be dictated by the way that you're programming and sort of the framework that you're working within. I like to try to use, my programming philosophy is more of a bottom-up periodization, right? We're kind of running things week by week. And generally, once you've done a block or two with an athlete, you have an idea of how long they can maintain a block for before it starts to be detrimental or their performance starts to fall off. So you just put a washout in there. You put your deload after the block has been as effective as it's going to be. That's how you bookend, like I said, block to block. A couple other like maybe more nuanced things about deloads. Expect to feel shitty. Expect to go in and be like, oh man, these weights feel so heavy. These weights feel brutal. This should not feel so bad. Because if you're doing a washout or a deload in an appropriate time slot, your adaptations from that block have kind of run their course. So you can expect that, if you had kept pushing the block, it would probably feel shitty. And you're not pushing the block, you're doing a deload week, but it still feels shitty. Another thing that I think throws people for a loop is coming back the week after, right? So first week back to block, people are like, why do I still feel bad? Why do I still feel like I'm rusty or like, my technique's not where it should be. I'm not as strong as I was at the end of last block. The answer to that is like, you didn't do a week of training last week. You know what I mean? You didn't give yourself sufficient stimulus to be able to carry forward those adaptations, right? Like I did say that the goal is to try to maintain the adaptation and alleviate fatigue, among other things. But you're never going to be able to do all of that perfectly to 100%, right? If you want to alleviate fatigue, you have to remove some training stress. When you remove some training stress, you're going to see a decline in the adaptations. You're going to see a decline in strength and skill. So those kinds of things, I think, sometimes throw people for a loop week one. They're like, oh, my squat feels terrible. And it's like, yeah, it's week one. It's going to take you some time to shake the rust off. That's normal. Nothing to worry about. So that's deloads and washouts. What's on the menu today? We got some comp squats. We got some leg press. We got some neutral grip bench. We got some tricep work. Then we have our batteries. One is a superset of leg curls and cable crunches. The other one is a superset of landmine rows and landmine half kneeling presses. And I think that's it. But it'll take me a little bit. We also got to try to film some content for the main channel today. So I don't know how the second part drive home chat thing is gonna go. We'll try to figure that out. But on that note, I'm pretty stoked that people like this style of vlog, because one of the biggest intentions behind it was like, we want something that's minimally disruptive to my training, and this seems good at that. But I think I also really like being able to put stuff out there that I can just speak very plainly. I can not have to worry about, filtering things, umming and awing too much, although Dylan still gives me shit. But like the stuff that we put out on main is like, it's very produced, right? There's a lot of work, a lot of intent goes into it. We're scripting stuff, even just loosely. And it's like a certain way of presenting myself. And in a lot of ways, it's a lot of fun. It's very fulfilling. We're able to put some humor in there, and I think put out a lot of really good information and education and that kind of stuff. But I also really enjoy just being able to kind of be more not myself, but like not have to like kind of filter it. You know what I mean? Like be able to speak a little more plainly, be able to, I don't know. I don't know the way to say it without making it seem like I'm putting on some front on the other channel, because that's not the case. You know, that's a side of me. But this is pretty easy and feels good, kind of therapeutic, kind of cathartic in ways, to be able to just speak very plainly, swear if I need to, kind of use whatever tone I need to or feel like, and just have to think less about what I'm saying. So I don't know. We were chatting the other day, and I think having the combination of the two, like creatively, for me is really fulfilling, because I have a place where we can just like throw stuff, and it can be a little ugly, it can be a little messy, it can be a little rough around the edges. And then we have a place where we can really like hone and fine tune and polish things. And I think for me, being able to have both of those outlets is important. Yeah, feels like necessary in a way. So, to anybody who's digging this stuff, thank you. Glad you're enjoying it. I am too. I really need to get a coffee. I hope there's enough coffee at the gym. But we will see you there. Oh, that's gross. There's no comfortable way to do this. Oh. Well, that was the washout session. I think it's called a washout because I sweat a literal bathtub worth, maybe. I thought my sunglasses were in the car and they're not. We had another wild swing in weather. It's like well above zero. Everything's melting. This is like bright blue skies, sunny. On the way to the gym, it was literally a blizzard. That's just spring. Spring in Calgary, baby. But yeah, as I kind of alluded to and expected, squats felt like absolute shit. I could not get the bar in the right place on my back. I was adjusting the rack height. Like I just couldn't get it comfortable. My shoulder was killing me. Like every rep, I felt like my hips were like just going super funky in the hole on every rep. It felt bad. But again, that's kind of what you expect. That kind of stuff is pretty par for the course and no reason to get, worked up or worried when it comes to, washout deload week. I messed around with the neutral grip bar. I think it's called the Arch Nemesis bar, Bells of Steel. And it was okay. I think, so that specific bar is made with like the dual purpose of both pressing and using as a cable attachment. So the bar itself is quite light. Like I think it might be 15 pounds or something. So it feels light. Like it feels kind of unstable. It feels really wobbly in the hand. The angle of the grips is not super comfortable. The wide grip, because of the arch of it, is like, it's too much range of motion for my shoulders. And the close grip is a good range of motion, but it feels too close. I don't know. I got a pretty good tricep pump out of it. And then, yeah, just, I guess like myo reps and stuff. But the battery thing at the end, Dylan, I was like lying on the floor for, 10 minutes afterwards or whatever, just trying to catch my breath. Because that stuff just kills me. And Dylan was like, oh, it looked easy. It looked so easy. Right? Like my last set with the overhead press thing, like I had no weight on the bar. It was just the bar. But like, I think it's a couple of things. The reason that I find that so challenging. Number one is that for like 14 years now, I have very explicitly and specifically trained my body to output maximal force in one rep. Like not only can I kind of not help but exert a lot of force on each of those like 25 reps in that set, but also the energy systems that I've like cultivated and trained my body to expect to need to use when lifting are not that energy system, right? Like I am terribly adapted for that stuff, and I fully like admit that, you know what I mean? It's probably a lot of smaller, like weaker people, by powerlifting standards anyways, who could kick my ass on that stuff and do way more weight and do it for like, have it be comfortable. But again, like the point of that is to train some stuff that you don't normally train, to push some qualities that you don't normally reach for, some qualities that have some maybe peripheral benefit, like metabolic adaptations in terms of being able to have a better cardiovascular capacity, which maybe there's some recovery benefits there. But even if there aren't, I think just like having a healthy heart and lungs is probably a good idea. Like I'm already pretty solidly 120 kilos body weight at this point, and I don't think that's maybe the easiest thing for my body and internal organs to sustain. Probably not the healthiest body weight to be. Now my body composition isn't that of probably your average person who's like 265 pounds, but still, So I think, and I was talking with a lifter of mine about it. We did a little short as well about it, but just trying to get some of that cardiovascular work. Um, whether it's like rushing your warm-ups or even just, taking them repeatedly, not resting after like 70 kilos, because that's absurd. But yeah, I am glad it's washout week. Feeling like it was necessary, like it's the right time. Selena, my wife, left on Friday to go on a work trip to Italy for 2 weeks. So, and like a lot of people probably do this regularly, so don't mind me just complaining about what's normal for most people, but having to cook and clean every meal, take the dog out every morning, like it's just the way we've built our lives is that we kind of have things set up that we share all these, domestic responsibilities. So when one of us is gone, and I fully understand that, she deals with that too, it's just a lot of added stress. It's a lot of added, time consuming things. And yeah, again, like people do that with kids, and that boggles my mind. But yeah, so I think this is good timing for the washout. I think this will allow me to kind of skate through this period a little bit easier, because I also don't sleep as well when she's gone. Like I anchor a lot of my good habits to her. Like we kind of have a routine together, and I think we're a little codependent on that front, which I mean, I don't know, most people probably are with their partners, but I don't think neither of us sleep as well when we're traveling or when the other one's traveling, so sleep quality is not great, not getting as much, me time, like relaxing as much, because I just gotta like, if you're cooking like a real meal every night and cleaning up after, it's a couple hours, so I don't know, not complaining either, but it's good timing. We filmed some more shorts, like I said, for the main channel today, and I think actually doing some of this stuff has helped in the other stuff, because I think there's elements of this, like I was talking about before, just being a little more plain and just kind of speaking normally as I would to any of my clients, as opposed to trying to be quite so polished, I think is relatable. Like I think a lot of people, and I think Dylan and I have talked about this a few times, but I think there's like a cultural shift towards less polished and overproduced stuff right now, because it feels like everywhere you go, everything's like presented in a very specific way with a very specific intent, and there's some kind of like underlying marketing and all this kind of stuff. Everybody's trying to sell you something, and we on some levels like have to do that, right? Like that's how we pay for the lease of the gym, that's how I pay my mortgage, is how we pay our coaches. But it feels good to kind of not have to do that here, and yeah, I think maybe people appreciate that. So like I was saying earlier, it's just a good outlet. It feels good to kind of just, I mean, I just jabber with very little like I don't plan things to say. I just kind of let it all, very flow of consciousness, stream of consciousness. But it feels good to do. I think it works for people, because it is just that, like this is just how I would talk to literally any other person. It's not like I'm trying to get a point across or educate or whatever. Just talking. And maybe that's something people miss and need more of, or something people crave, I think there's elements of that get really suppressed with social media being the way it is, whether it's highlight reels on Instagram or TikToks, just like rapid fire dopamine algo shotgun blast. Like, it's just, yeah, I don't know. There's probably some value to just slowing down a little bit and having a pretty normal, I don't want to say like mediocre, but like, what's the word? Just like an average conversation, you know? I don't know where I'm going with this, but that probably is enough for today. So we will see you in the next one, whenever it comes out, whatever it is.